Thanksgiving has always been a holiday dressed in layers of polite lies, a day when families gather around a table decorated with roasted turkey, cranberry sauce, and carefully rehearsed smiles. But that evening, politeness shattered faster than glass dropped from a balcony. One moment I was reaching for the mashed potatoes, and the next, my mother-in-law, B, stood up with the authority of a queen and slapped me across the face so hard the silverware trembled against the plates. The sting of her hand wasn't just physical. It was a declaration, a public notice to everyone seated that I was nothing more than an obstacle to be handled. "Selfish dog," she spat, her voice sharp enough to slice through the warmth of the room. The reason for her rage was simple yet absurd. I had refused to let her host her glamorous Thanksgiving weekend gala in my newly purchased apartment. Before we continue, be part of our growing family by hitting that subscribe button. And here's something fun. Share your name and tell us where you're tuning in from in the comments. We might feature you with a shout out in our next video, because your support truly means the world to us. Now, let's proceed. The silence that followed was heavier than the meal itself. My wife, Nora, pressed her eyes into her plate, unwilling to meet mine. The aunts gasped into their wine glasses. The cousins stared at their phones, pretending to scroll as though they hadn't just witnessed something grotesque. I wanted to speak, to defend myself, but my throat locked. Sometimes silence is not weakness, it is strategy. She demanded that I apologize for ruining Thanksgiving. She twisted the scene with the ease of a professional manipulator, painting herself as the victim while I stood as the accused. I folded my napkin neatly, pushed back my chair, and left the table without a word. I could feel the heat on my cheek, but inside, something colder was taking shape. Out on the porch, the night air pressed against me, clean and steady, unlike the suffocating theater inside. I replayed her words and the slap, not as wounds, but as evidence. B wasn't just insulting me. She was attempting to claim ownership of my sacrifice. That apartment wasn't just a property. It was years of extra shifts, saying no to indulgences, and dragging myself out of debt while others laughed. I had bought it with my name on the deed, my signature on every paper. And yet, she believed it was her right to demand it for her vanity. In that moment, I decided I wouldn't fight with shouting matches or petty squabbles. No, I would fight with precision. B wanted a performance, and I would give her one, but it wouldn't be the show she scripted. That night, after the house emptied of murmurs and wine-soaked apologies, I began laying my groundwork. My first call was to the building manager, Mr. Davis, a man whose loyalty was bound to one thing: policy. I requested that my unit be flagged. No outside events, no unauthorized guests, no large deliveries. I had him email me every clause in the building's bylaws, highlighting occupancy limits, insurance requirements, and penalties for violations. My second call was to my insurer. I added event coverage with restrictions so tight a birthday balloon wouldn't qualify. Then I drafted a short email to B. You may bring the family for a short tour of the apartment on Saturday. 30 minutes only. That's all I can accommodate. I added a smiley face at the end, not out of kindness, but because politeness coated in steel unnerves bullies more than rage. The next morning, my suspicions were confirmed. B had already posted a grand announcement on her social feed. Thanksgiving weekend gala, an evening of grace at a skyline home. She didn't name whose home, but her circle already knew. The comments rolled in. Heart emojis, applause, and sycophantic notes about how they couldn't wait to see her stunning venue. I screenshotted every line. Then I made my second round of calls, this time to her hired vendors. I called the piano rental company, the bartender, the florist, and the caterers. I informed them that no service could legally take place at my address without my signed authorization. Vendors don't care about glitz. They care about contracts and signatures. One by one, they backed away from her promises. By Saturday, BEA's entire illusion was already collapsing, though she didn't yet know it. When she arrived for the tour, she came in white, as if she were the bride of her own ego. Nora followed, eyes downcast, trailed by 2 aunts and cousin Mia. I welcomed them with a calm smile, my door camera blinking a steady red light, recording everything. Inside, the apartment was spotless and undecorated, sunlight pouring through wide windows. Bee strutted from room to room, tapping walls as though appraising fruit. "This will do," she finally said, as though granting her approval. "It won't," I replied, pulling out the printed policies and laying them on the kitchen counter like evidence in a courtroom. I read aloud. "No events above 12 persons without board approval. No amplified music. No unapproved caterers. No unauthorized entries." I looked her squarely in the eye. "I'm the deed holder. I won't authorize. The board won't approve. Vendors have been informed. If anyone attempts entry without my consent, security will handle it. And if it escalates, the police will." For the first time, I saw her smirk falter. She stepped closer, her perfume sharp and invasive. "You'll regret this," she hissed, as if regret was a gift she could wrap. "Maybe," I said evenly, "but not today." Nora shifted uneasily, caught between blood and vows, but said nothing. The aunts muttered about my temper. Bee stormed out, heels clicking like a retreating drumbeat, her pride bruised more than my cheek had been. I closed the door, the lock sliding like punctuation on the end of a sentence. That night, I brewed tea I didn't drink, opened my laptop, and began drafting a document I titled Lines. The rules were simple. 1. No one lays a hand on me again. 2. No one spends what I've earned without my signature. 3. Anyone who calls me selfish while demanding my labor will learn the cost of confusing generosity with surrender. The day of BEA's so-called gala arrived, and I was ready. Guests showed up in shimmering gowns and tailored suits, expecting the skyline home Bee had promised. But when they arrived at her own house, they found confusion. There was no piano, no caterer, no bartender. Guests whispered as the truth unraveled. Some even pulled out their phones, showing the screenshots I had discreetly circulated. Her public announcement, my polite email declining authorization, and the building policies that made her promise impossible. Bee scrambled, trying to claim last-minute changes, but her carefully cultivated image cracked in front of her admirers. For years she had thrived on illusions, but tonight, her empire of glitter collapsed into whispers and pitying stares. From my apartment balcony, I watched the city lights blink against the dark sky. I sipped my tea, calm as the storm I had orchestrated brewed elsewhere. For once, BEA's name wasn't being praised, it was being questioned. Guests who once swooned now gossiped. Her pride had been slapped harder than she had ever slapped me. Later that night, Nora came home, her face pale, her words trembling. "You didn't have to do that," she said softly. I met her eyes and answered with the truth. "No, I had to. Because silence only teaches people that you're willing to bleed for free." She didn't argue. She didn't defend her mother. For once, she let the truth hang heavy between us. Thanksgiving is meant to be about gratitude and holding on to what matters. This year, I held on to my dignity, my home, and my right to say no. And Bee learned the cost of underestimating me, the selfish dog who refused to roll over. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and help us reach our first 1,000 subscribers. Your support means the world to us.